Okay, Rich, we're live. Thanks for joining me this morning. As I typically do, I'll give you the floor. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just a little bit about your background for my audience, and so people know who you are and what you're building.
Yeah, my name's Rich Moyer, founder and CEO of multiple companies. Was in the golf industry, a PGA professional once I got out of high school, and that turned me into a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company at 26, sold it for multi-millions, and now I have multiple companies, and one is franchise. I'm franchising across the country. I'm a franchisor as well.
So, what is that company that you're trying to build across the country? Maybe we could start there and
Yeah.
what it is specifically and what your goals are.
Yeah, Hopin is a high-tech self-serve beer, wine, cocktail bar. So very limited staff, but all technology-based. So we have 60 plus self-serve taps that you can serve a tenth of an ounce all the way to a full glass. And we also have full cocktail bars. Very engaging, very entertaining. Definitely a ton of games and things to play as well. So something different, something that a lot of cities currently do not have. And Hopin is one of a kind in the franchising world. So it's a high tech bar, cocktail, beer, wine driven bar that you can go and serve your own drinks and be your own bartender.
And when did that self pour really start, right? Because I've heard of those and I've been to a couple similar ideas, where I live. So would you say you're kind of a pioneer in that space, or has it been around for a good 5-10 years at this point?
Yeah, it's been around for a lot longer than we have actually started ours. I think the technology, there's multiple companies, and there's the wine aspect of self-serve wine that comes from the bottle, directly from the bottle, and you use a card and you swipe it and you can pour, an ounce or less and taste wine. So I think that was probably the first technology, and then it evolved into being able to serve self-serve beer, wine, and keg out of kegs. And that technology was out several years before we started our brand. And it's evolved over the years. There's about 3 companies now that have the tech or have created their own technology around it. And, we've just jumped onto who we feel is the best hardware, the best technology, the best support, which is Pour My Beer. And we've been utilizing them a couple of years after we opened our first 2 locations.
Gotcha. And can you articulate the benefits of making it self-serve? I think you mentioned it earlier, decrease labor costs. So what does that look like on your end, or for a potential franchisee? Does that mean that they just need one person working at a time, or what does it look like?
Yeah, we are at a very high level. We're an experience company. You can go get a drink at any other bar. So what makes us different? Obviously, it's going to be the experience, and then 2, the technology from the consumer side is unique. It's something that you can go and pour a half a glass, a third of a glass, a tenth of an ounce. You don't have to get a full drink, which is always a nice option. There's a convenience aspect of not waiting in line and waiting for a drink. So on the consumer side, it's different. It's cool. It's unique. It's something fun. It's something you can joke around, have fun with your friends if they pour a beer bad or, kind of don't know what they're doing. And then also teach them. And it's very educational. So on the experience side for our staff, we are there to teach and give our customers an experience that they're not going to get at any other bar. On the franchisee side, there's a slew of benefits. One being, yes, the overhead and your staffing needs. We have very limited staff, 8 to 12 staff members at every single location, and only 2 or 3 of those are full-time. The national average of waste for a keg is 23 to 25%. Our waste is 3 to 4%. So we kind of maximize our profit margins by minimizing our waste. And then on the flip side, the technology eliminates, I always say, 95% of a typical bar owner's headaches. Not having to worry about staff stealing, people giving things away. It's all tech-based, so you have access to reporting to see exactly what ounce was poured by who and at what time. So the ability to kind of be anywhere and look at that reporting and understand if your team is stealing or if they're giving things away, it eliminates kind of those headaches that you really do have at a traditional bar.
And is it self-serve cocktails as well, or at your locations there's an actual bar? So there's there's taps where you can get beer, self-serve beer and wine, and then you have to go up to the regular bar to get a cocktail, or are the cocktails self-serve as well?
It's both. It just depends on the legalities of the state. So some states you're allowed to do self-serve cocktails. Some states you are not. In North Carolina, we have full cocktail bars, and we have self-serve beer, wine, ciders, and seltzers. In South Carolina and other states that we're going to be opening up in, self-serve cocktails is legal. So we'll have full cocktail bars, but we will also have self-serve cocktails, maybe 8 to 10 self-serve cocktails on each location that is allowed to have those self-serve cocktails.
Gotcha. And then I'm curious too, do you find that with it, when it's self-serve beer, let's just say, do people typically drink more when they can serve themselves and therefore that increases revenue as well?
I think just the ability of convenience and having 60 plus taps for people to go try different things. Some people drink less, honestly, right? I mean, if there's a group of 10 people, there might be two that just really don't like to drink a lot. So they'll go in and want to be a part of their crowd. So they'll go and get a half a glass and sip on that, or get a couple ounces every once in a while. And they might only drink, you know, 14 ounces throughout an hour, 2 hour stay, which is less than one beer. Our average pour is right around 5.8 ounces. And then our average checks range from 17 to $30, depending on the location. So I think overall, yeah, they can easily run up a tab and drink a lot. And it's, or they can say, you know what, I'm not a big drinker. This is a great, perfect spot for me to go and have a couple ounces and feel like I fit in without feeling like I need to go order a full drink.
Yeah. And then are you able to charge more for just a couple ounce pour, right? Is that it's more beneficial to you as the business? It fits for the customer. And then also you're making more money by them just taking a smaller quantity and then maybe trying multiple beers.
Yeah, we don't charge more. I mean, the per ounce price is based off of what a
Okay.
typical 16-ounce beer would be, or a typical, 5, 6 ounce glass of wine. So if they pour an ounce of beer that's a Mick Ultra, it might be 20 or 25 cents an ounce, or 30 cents an ounce. And it doesn't matter how much they pour. Every tenth of an ounce, they're going to get charged for that per ounce price.
Got it. That makes sense. And then you mentioned something earlier, and I'm just kind of curious about this because I don't know much at all about the beer business or the alcohol business. So you said that most kegs have a certain shelf life, or a lot of kegs go bad in typical bars. And is that just due to the fact that it's flat, or that it's no longer good, and that bar needs to just get rid of the keg, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's rare that, I mean, we never have kegs go bad unless they just come in bad, and we know that as we tap it, and they check it before they tap it. But for the most part, it's more of the waste, the national average waste of every keg, from bartenders overpouring, giving beers away,
Mm,
um, and just not knowing how to pour a beer, right? So the general rule that we go by is that, we want to keep our waste at 3 to 4%, where the national average is, again, 23 to 25%, because of bartenders giving drinks away, bartenders overpouring, letting the foam just kind of roll out. Every tenth of an ounce that comes out of our tap is accounted for on somebody's credit card, or our team's pouring it for one reason or the other, whether if it's cleaning a line, or if it's, a customer poured a bad beer and we show them how to pour it, we give them 3 or 4 ounces.
gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, the bad pour is also on the customer, right? Where, I mean, if you pour poorly as a customer, you're going to be charged for it
Yeah,
potentially.
yep, every tenth of an ounce. But our team on the wall is there to support that, and for the most part, customers are like, "Man, I need to learn how to pour beer," and our team will jump in if they see somebody pour a beer. If a customer comes up to them and says, "Hey, this is how it came out," there are times where the keg kicks, and our system shows you when the keg's getting low. Most customers may not recognize that, but being able to just go up to them and say, "Hey, this is how you pour beer," give them an extra 3 or 4 ounces to make up for what they, feel like they would have lost there, which there is no true loss. They just have to let the foam settle. And then outside of that, sometimes kegs kick. So if a keg kicks, then we'll just go in there, give them a free drink for the keg kicking.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. And then I am curious too around like liquor licenses. I've always thought this was interesting. And can you maybe explain at a high level, maybe in North Carolina, because I think that's where you're from, how that works, how you have to work with the government to apply for that license, how many they give out, how much it
Yeah.
costs on an annual basis? Because I don't know a ton about it, but I've heard, that it is quite expensive to be able to sell alcoholic beverages or have a business that sells alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, it
Is
really
that
depends
fair?
on yeah, it really depends on the state, right? North Carolina, South Carolina are very inexpensive. Tennessee is really inexpensive. So for us, it's right around $2,000 to $3,000 for beer, wine, and liquor. They're separate. Beer, wine
Oh,
is one
wow.
license. Liquor is another license. There's other states that are limited. They don't. They have limited beer license, beer, wine license. They have limited liquor license, like Pennsylvania. So per zip code or per per county, you might be limited to, there is none left, and you have to buy it from somebody, and those can run up to $1 million. So it's always more difficult in those cities and those states to get into when those liquor licenses are limited. But every state's different. The legalities in every single state are different. The cost to get a liquor license or beer wine license is different in every state.
So just back to your point, North Carolina, $2,000, that is the annual cost or all in
Yeah.
cost?
Yeah. Annual
Annual.
cost. Yeah. One time a year to renew your license and keep it updated.
And so maybe we could talk to, and I think because this may fit in with your strategy, like I believe you said that you're planning on expanding this. So maybe you could speak to your expansion plans, and then are the states that you're targeting, does that come into play? The liquor license laws, is that a big deciding factor about where you're going to go?
Yeah, we're definitely open in some of those tougher states, and into franchising there. There's just some different hurdles, different things that we have to jump through to make sure it works and make sure the numbers work. But our expansion this year, we're opening 5 locations, two in Texas, one in Fort Worth, one in Dallas, two in Nashville, Tennessee, and then one more here in the Charlotte area. And then we also have another 5 in the pipeline to be opening over the next couple of years, and some more in the pipeline that'll be signing here in the next month or two. But overall, our goal is to focus on the fastest growing cities in the U.S. and then the bigger cities across the country. And those fall, there's a few states that we're not registered in, New York, California, which are just a little bit more difficult for franchisors to get registered in and a little bit more costly. So we're holding off on those until our expansion into other states grows.
And do you own any of the locations personally?
I own 2. Yeah, we have one here in Charlotte and one in Greenville, South Carolina.
And then I'm kind of curious, like for potential franchisees, what your pitch is, right? I'm always curious about the franchising route. Like if that makes sense, if you don't want to work your 9 to 5 anymore, or you want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, is there truly a lot of upside where you can make a good high quality living, and this thing will be highly profitable? I mean, how do you think about that, right? Because I think you as the founder are competing against other opportunities. Like why would they not franchise a McDonald's, or why would they not just stick to their 9 to 5 and try and move up the corporate ladder? So I don't know if you can maybe speak to that, like kind of what that opportunity presents and how it's unique versus other franchise opportunities.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know a lot of the things that we see are franchises, even if we don't think they are, even if we think they're a local business. So there's tens of thousands of franchises that are opening around our world and in the USA. But the ability for us to give a different opportunity, for us, it comes down to, is it a great culture fit? Do they fit our culture? Do they fit our brand? And then 2, is this something that they have a passion about opening up their own bar business? Like we'll decline. We won't award franchises if we don't think it's a good fit. So not everybody is the right fit for us, and vice versa. Not everybody is going to be us have to feel like they're the right fit, and vice versa. So I think our ability to bring something unique, bring something different, it is something cool and it's something fun. And one of the biggest fits for us is people that are like the ultimate host, that always want to have people over and entertain, and always want to kind of be the ultimate host. And other franchises are a little bit more down and dirty, and it could be in the home service business. It could be McDonald's are very expensive to get into, and there's, it's kind of limited, and those kind of trade hands between the existing franchisees. And it's kind of the dinosaur of franchising. It's still very, very successful, but sometimes people want something new and different. For us, again, it just comes down to, is it something that you're passionate about? Are you kind of the ultimate host type of person, or are you an investor that's looking to expand your portfolio and have something that is more hands off as an investor and manager opportunity instead of being an owner operator? The 9 to 5 individuals, sure, there's opportunity 100% to be your own boss, be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship's not for everybody. It's not easy. So the benefit of going with a franchise, whether if it's with us or with somebody else, is going to be the support, obviously the marketing, the branding, and the ability to not have to do it yourself, and have a team behind you that's going to help throughout the tough times and throughout the good times. So it's a different animal, franchising is, and a lot of it comes down to, is it the right fit for us as a franchisor, and is it the right fit for the candidate? Because it's a marriage. I mean, once we sign them documents, we're basically married together, and we're basically making a pact to move forward to be successful together.
Got it. And then maybe can you just maybe hypothetically at a high level walk me through how does the process work? Like let's say hypothetically I was approved to be a franchisee. What is the next step? Are you picking location or do I pick the location? Are you building it out and providing all the equipment and the taps and choosing the beers and basically building it out, setting it up and say, okay, now you go run it? How does it work at a high level if somebody's interested in a franchise opportunity with you, if
Yeah.
they are
So
approved?
yeah, after approval, after a few phone calls and conversations, and then coming out to visit and meeting in person, meeting our team, if we feel it's a good fit, we start the legality process of reviewing our FDD. Your legal team will review it, give us any comments back. Once we get that signed, a check is handed to us for $60,000. That check is your initial franchise fee, and then we start the process together. Site selection we assist with, but you will work with our real estate team is a national brand, and they will basically pinpoint the locations that are going to be the best fit and the most probable to be successful. We don't guarantee success anywhere because a lot of it falls on the franchisee to also be doing their part. And then once we find site selection, you'll be working with our architect design team, and they will begin the process of schematic drawings and a layout. Once that layout is approved by us, then they roll into start planning. As long as you're moving forward with the lease, as long as the landlord is moving forward with the lease. Once lease is signed, it's full go mode. Our architect design team will plan everything. They'll help with permitting. You'll work with a local general contractor and start the process of getting bids. We usually recommend 3 to 4 bids from general contractors. And the toughest part is definitely the finding the location and the build out process, because it is long, it's drawn out, and just construction in general takes a while in the world we live in right now. Once you get your doors open, prior to getting your doors open, 90 days out, we start the training process. Your team would come here for 10 to 11 days, go through a long training process. We send you out back, and then the week of grand opening, we send our team out to train your existing or new employees. Once they get trained, they're there for the entire grand opening weekend to support and help out in any way. 90 days out, we also start the marketing. So our team does all the marketing for our franchisees, digital marketing wise, not local. And then digitally, we start the marketing 90 days out and start to that entire process. So the grand opening is a big success.
So I'm just trying to understand too the all in cost. So it sounds like it's 60,000 all in, and then you identify the site and it's being built out. Is the franchisee responsible for the lease and rent during that build out process?
Yep. Yeah. So 60K is the initial fee. The franchisee is going to be responsible for all expenses, for all the construction, all of insurances, rent, all the liability that it is to open up a business as if they were doing it themselves. And your all-in cost with the initial franchise fee can range from $1 million to $1.8 million. And it just really depends on the building itself. And that's before you get any tenant improvement allowance. So most landlords will give you money back to improve their property. And that just depends on the city, the state, and what the typical TIA is going for.
And so how do people, $1 million, right? And for somebody that doesn't have experience in this area, that seems like a lot of money, right? So are people essentially taking loans out, or is it investors that are coming together that already have that money to put it forward? Is that typically how it works?
Yeah, it's a mix. SBA loans are the best route to go if you're looking to loan or have debt on the investment, which most people will do. They'll take an SBA loan. It's the best rates. It's typically the best rates and the best terms, longer terms than just a traditional loan, which is very tough to get for a new business. On the flip side, you have the ability to have private money or an investor partner, and we've had our franchisees go both ways. Some are just self-funded and they have the money themselves.
And then maybe you can like understanding the cost, and then if all goes well and you're a top 1% operator, stellar, what does it look like from a a growth, profitability, revenue perspective, as you start to run this thing and build it out and build a loyal customer base?
Yeah, we're legally only allowed to give certain numbers, but
Okay.
financially, everything's on our FDD on top line numbers. So our Charlotte location did 1.8 million its first year. The lowest year we had was right around a little over a million, and that was during the pandemic where we were closed a good bit of the time. So those range national or our profit margins, our gross profit margins are 78 to 82. Bottom line numbers are something that we don't share. We do provide a forecast sheet that our candidates can go through and input their expectation or what they think it is based off of existing franchise locations sales, and then kind of back into what their financials would look like and what their bottom line would look like.
And when you say gross, what are you expenses are you pulling out of gross? Is it just labor and cost of the beer, or
Just
what?
cost of goods. Yeah, just cost of goods sold before pulling out labor. So just cost our
Gotcha.
gross profit on cost of goods is right around 78, 82.
Okay. So I think that's kind of where the sweet spot is, right? Or if you're able to share that, you say, hey, you're going to have to invest a lot of money. And I don't know, maybe you can articulate, is it the same upfront investment for, we can go back to this example for a McDonald's. Is that a similar, you're going to be all in $1 million to open a McDonald's, or is it on the lower end?
I think McDonald's are like 3
Oh,
mil,
really?
4 mil. Yeah, I think their range is pretty big because you're building the property. So
Uh,
there's a lot more that goes into it. But yeah, there's franchises you can open up for $30,000, $40,000, and you don't really have too much of a storefront or anything to build out. And then there's franchises that are $4, $5, $6 million to open up.
what's an example of the lower end, like a 40,000? Is that more like a service based business?
Yep, service business. It could be a home service business where you're doing paint or trim or landscaping or some of those things where it's really inexpensive to buy the equipment and have one truck and to operate it.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I think that's super interesting. And then I'm curious too, like as I guess the founder of this brand, how have you thought about branding it, differentiating it? I know there's a similar place right down the street from my house. I think it's called the Brass Tap. I don't know if that's a competitor you're aware of. I don't know if it's self serve, but it's
Brass
being
Tap
built.
is Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another franchise, but they're not self serve. They're just a bar
Okay.
restaurant. Yeah, tap house. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Well,
they're
yeah. I mean, that one's being it's being built brand new right down by my house. So somebody
yeah,
dropped $1 million into that to build it as well. Is that fair to say?
yeah. It's probably a million plus to open that up. But yeah, they're competition in one aspect, but they're also where we would want to be. We want to be right in that same mix of bars and restaurants and where everybody's going to hang out and drink and eat. So in one aspect, they're competition. Another aspect, that's where you want to be, right? It's like you have car dealerships; they all want to be around each other because if you're going to buy a car, you're going to go check out multiple cars, and you want to be able to see them all in one place. No different for us in the bar industry. We want to be around breweries, bars, restaurants where everybody's going to hang out, and they can have a couple of drinks with us, go have a couple of drinks with somebody else.
And is there a way that you think about, differentiating or saying, hey, I'm a better place than the other place down the street? Or is it truly, hey, I just want to make sure that you're stopping at my bar as well as the other place? Do you not really think of it as like a bar versus bar type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, there's always the bigger picture, right? I mean, again, at the high level, we're an experience company. What makes us different is going to be the experience, it's going to be the vibe, it's going to be what you get when you walk into our door, with the decor being completely different than your traditional bar, the experience being completely different, and then just the vibe. So for us, we are a marketing company at a very high level. We are not a bar or a tap room. We just happen to be that is our product, and our product is servicing people and having a good time. Whereas most bars will just kind of showcase their drinks or kind of have a different marketing aspect. Ours is to create some type of FOMO and create in this generation, where everybody wants to go. And my marketing team, director of marketing, have done an amazing job, and our management team has done an amazing job of trying to stay ahead of what is popular and what is our generation or the generation that's going to our tap rooms want to do. What are they looking to do? So it's just staying top of mind, staying innovative, staying different. And then I have a fractional CMO who because it helped us kind of create an 82-page marketing guide, which dives deep into what we do. And we get this question a lot from candidates or franchisees that have signed with us, like, what makes you guys different? And it really does come down to our marketing and what we've created on the branding side. I always tell people, there was 3 or 4 other self-serve bars in Charlotte. Some of them I consulted for to help them out get open. Every one of them are closed except for one. And there's something to be said that we must be doing something right. And I believe that it's the marketing, it's the vibe, it's the culture. It takes a lot, right? You can't just put self-serve taps on a wall and think that people are going to flock to your business. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just adding self-serve to a bar. And I think that proves that we're successful for a reason, knowing that multiple other locations around us, and no different in Greenville. When we opened up in Greenville, there was a self-serve place down there, and about a year after we opened, they closed.
So do you get a lot of repeat customers? I think that it makes a lot of sense to focus on marketing, focus on brand. And I think it is intriguing, right? When people have like, oh, I've never heard of this. Oh, I can sample all these different beers and do it myself and scan the card, and it's really good experience. But do you find that people come back again and they say, okay, this is going to be my regular brewery where I get my, you know, Thursday afternoon beer after work? Or is it more that it's a novelty and people show up, but then you need to really follow up with them or market harder to get them to return?
Yeah, it's definitely a loyalty customer. We're not a one-time novelty type thing. Again, it's the experience, right? And every day of the week that they come in, their experience is going to be a little bit different depending on what we have going on, whether if it's music bingo, trivia, Thursday themed event, or Friday DJs, or Saturday live music during the day, or DJ at night. Sunday more of a chill vibe with potentially a DJ. So there's a ton of loyalty in it, and we've created great loyal benefits for our loyal members and our loyal, we call them VIP members, and the ability to continue. For us, we are continuing to add value for customers to be loyal and do different things that is really, really fun and really cool, that I don't know of any other bars or restaurants that are doing it the way that we're doing it. So there is a ton of loyalty to the brand. And there's days where I think there's so much loyalty that if I really wanted to expand this corporately, I can open up an investment deck to just our customers and probably get enough money to continue to grow corporately. But yeah, to answer your question, ton of loyal customers that are repeat customers that are there 2-3 times a week.
And is that why you think you mentioned those 3 or 4 other self-serve bars? Why did they fail? Is it that they did simply just say, hey, maybe they didn't market at all, or they just said, hey, we're self-serve, no events, no extra mile, no extra step? Is that really the differentiator? Is it just doing that, going from a 95% effort to 100% effort? Is that the key?
Yeah, it's definitely they saw the success. We were the first in Charlotte to do it. They saw the
Mm.
success we had, and they thought, well, cool, just put self serve, and we'll just do it in a different area of the city, and it'll be successful. So I think there was that aspect. I do think that they don't understand everything that we did to or do to be where we are and to drive traffic and to drive people into our door. And a lot of that came with the marketing and the advertising and putting dollars behind being able to get your brand in front of people. And then on the flip side, a lot of it comes with culture. I know one of the locations, the ownership group was not here in Charlotte, and the manager was running it at a very disrespectful way. So some of their staff actually came from there and started working with us after they closed, and they were open for, I think, less than a year. So it's culture driven, not understanding the culture of the city and just the culture of leadership, and having that as good leadership. So you can quickly drive your employees are the most important people in your business. So for me now, my franchisees are the most important, and our employees at our corporate stores are the most important people in the business. If we're taking care of them and the culture's right, that funnels down to the customer. The customer's having a good time, which funnels down to them playing games, having fun, and spending money with us.
Yeah, and I think in other interviews and podcasts I've done, I think that theme comes up, right? And maybe you can speak to that briefly because you have experience scaling multiple companies as an entrepreneur and a founder, about how you have to, at a certain point, let go of control, and how you do that, how you ensure you have the right people in place to drive the company forward in the way that you want, in the vision that you foresaw when you started it. I don't know if you have any specific techniques or frameworks that you use, or it's just kind of come with time, and identifying and hiring those people and then making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, the ability to not feel like you have to have control is the best way to be successful. As soon as you feel, or if you are the type of leader that feels like you have to control everything, you're never going to grow. So for me, I've always proven to my employees that, hey, here's the vision. Here's where our goal is to be. Here's the growth plan. Here's where we want to be. And I want you to be a part of that vision. And I give them ownership in their position. Once they have ownership in their position, I trust them fully to make decisions. I would trust them fully to make mistakes, and I trust them fully to look at those mistakes and say, all right, how do we implement a system or a process that we don't make this mistake again? And I think once you do that, you have employees that will work 10 times harder for you than if you are continually controlling them, or if they feel like they have to come to you for everything to get approval. Both my director of operations, my director of marketing have been with me for a very long time. And they feel the freedom to go do and try things without any fear of making a mistake. Like, they want to be able to make a mistake because that's how we're going to learn. That's how we're going to grow. I tell them, I've said it on multiple podcasts, failure is your trampoline to success. If you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing. So the ability for leaders and franchisors or for business owners to give their employees ownership in their position, not necessarily equity in the company, but ownership in their position, one, will allow you to focus on bigger picture, visionary items that are going to grow the company into the actual vision that you wished you can get to. And two, it gives your employees the freedom to feel like, all right, this is my baby. I need to take care of it. And I'm going to do everything I can to treat it like it's my own company, treat it like my own business.
When you say ownership, you mean ownership to make decisions, or and just setting that expectation with them. Hey, you're running operations for these 2 locations, so you call the shots, you make it happen. You don't need to come to me for everything. Is that what you mean?
Yep. Yeah. Full ownership in their position, to have the ability to make decisions, the ability to make mistakes, and the ability to always, my door is always open. Come to me and say, hey man, this is what happened. What, how would you handle it? Or what would you do? Or this is the mistake that happened. What systems can we put in place to not make sure it doesn't happen again? I think you allow them to make mistakes, that allows them to grow. It allows them to say, one, not be afraid to try things, because sometimes they're on the front line. They're going to learn stuff before you do when you're not there day to day. So if they don't make mistakes, then the company itself is never going to grow. And so far, as well as the employee is not going to grow if he's just continually staying stagnant and living on a straight line of, this is what we have to do because this is the way it was written.
And what's the differentiation, or how do you determine between somebody that's making mistakes and growing versus somebody that's continually making mistakes and potentially someone that you should move on from?
A lot of that comes from, for me personally, was always having an open door policy with, whether if it's somebody that's worked for me for a day or somebody that's worked for me for 6-7 years. Your employees will let you know if there's a cancer within the building. And as long as you have the true open door policy of saying, hey, if there's anything wrong, good, bad, or ugly, you can come into my door and let's have a conversation about it. And then just handling those as they come in, right? Gary Vaynerchuk always said, hire fast, but fire faster. So when you have a cancer, you just get rid of it. The company, I've learned over time of holding on to people too long, that once you got rid of them, everybody was happier, and the company, it just kind of exploded after that. So having that, and then for me, I always, once every 6 months or 6 to 12 months, depending on the staff level, whether it was an executive or just a part-time staff, my door is open to meet with them. I send out an invite to all of them to meet once every 6 to 12 months to have personal conversations, nothing about business unless they want to talk about it, what their goals are, where they want to be. Do they want to open up their own business? Do they want to continue to grow with the company? Do they want to buy a house? Are they having a child? What does it look like? And then how can I help them get to where they want to be? And I think that also allows them to feel comfortable to come to me and say, hey, our leadership here is really shitty with this manager at this location. Can we, talk about it? And I don't think those conversations would happen. I think good employees would leave if there's bad managers, and then you start to funnel down into losing some of your best employees if you don't get rid of the cancer early on.
And can you speak to, because I've experienced this as well, just kind of in my career, like the first time that you need to have that difficult conversation with a manager or an employee that is that the cancer kind of as you're referring to it, and potentially just letting them go. It can seem hard at first. Can you speak to how you develop that skill of having those difficult conversations and either putting them on like the correct path to performing at a higher level or letting them go? How do you develop that skill?
Go. It's but that there's really no. It's never easy. So it's just more of if for me over the years of owning businesses now 10 plus years, pretty much every single person I've let go has flourished after letting them go. So it kind of put their back against the wall, and some of them I still have conversations with, I still speak with, they still reach out to me for some mentorship, and then some of them, they have reached out to me and said, "Man, that was the best thing for me was for you to let me go and have to figure out what my next step was." So I always, now it's a little bit easier because I know that, obviously the situation isn't right for them and it's not right for us. So maybe they're just comfortable or maybe they're just unhappy and they don't know the next step to take. So I have to be the one that makes that step and lets them know like, hey, you got to find something else. And 90% of the time they go flourish doing something else.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to look at it. You're kind of forcing them to find something else because if you don't fire them, they won't leave. The cycle will continue, right? So I think it's a really good point. So maybe just to kind of close out with Hopin, it sounds like people is a big focus, expansion is a big focus, but outside of people, expansion, is it really just the marketing side and the brand to ensure that that drives recognition for franchisees and therefore revenue and therefore it benefits you as well?
Yeah, definitely picking the right franchisees, the right candidates early on is very important because they're such an integral part of the culture and the actual experience for our customers. And then, yeah, marketing is an ever changing thing, and social media is ever changing. The algorithms are ever changing, so it's just something that we take a lot of pride in and a lot of time and energy and a lot of investment in on our side to make sure that we're keeping up with that for our candidates and our franchisees because it is an animal and it's something that we want them to focus on the experience and the culture and the leadership while we focus on helping them with the marketing side outside of their local marketing of events and being in the community.
And would you say that's a common theme with, I know you mentioned that you've built other companies and you're currently building other companies too. Maybe we can talk a bit about what those are, but are those common themes, hire the right people, ensure you're bringing awareness to your brand through marketing? Is that something that has been common across your entrepreneurial journey or career as an entrepreneur?
1,000%. Sales is the heartbeat of the company. If you're not bringing in sales, then you're not going to be successful. So marketing is kind of goes hand in hand with sales with some of the businesses that I own. And on the flip side, the people is the most important thing, right? People do business with people they like. So if you have likable people working inside of your companies, it's just going to happen that people are going to come do business with you. And I think people overall, I would overpay somebody or pay somebody more that's going to work twice as hard than paying two people more than that one person. Because having less employees working harder is better than having more employees working half-assed.
100%. And then can you maybe speak to, you mentioned briefly earlier in the conversation about the first company that you built and sold and kind of what that was and what it taught you that you've now applied to Hopin, for
Yeah.
example?
Yeah, the first company I started was in 2014. It was a construction company. It was in the construction realm, but all I was a sales team for smaller contractors that couldn't sell themselves. And I grew it very, very rapidly from basically $0. I did 1.8 million my first year, 3.6 million my second year, 6.5 million my third year. And in that process, I grew so quickly that I ended up having to hire individuals. It was really never the goal to hire my own team other than salespeople. So I ended up having 50 plus employees, 200 plus contractors running around Charlotte, North Carolina, South Carolina, and some in Texas. And all I did, again, was broker services, anything from pressure washing to concrete to drywall framing, full full turnkey jobs, just depending on what the project was. And it was all bigger projects, multifamily, hospitals, hotels, high rises, office upfits and high rises, things like that. So again, this sales aspect was, if I can sell, I can do anything. Having the ability to sell was what that business was all about. And I created amazing relationships with general contractors, and I picked up my phone when they called, and I showed up when I said I was going to show up. And that's something that kind of lacks in that dinosaur kind of construct. Technology is arising and becoming more prominent in construction than what it was back in 2014. But I just kind of found a niche in the market and was very successful, and it snowballed into me selling it for multi-millions in 2 months into my fourth year. But what I learned from it was, one, I don't want to be the guy in the business. And I don't want any of our franchisees to be kind of the guy where you have to be on 24/7, 7 days a week. And that's why when I started these other companies, I started to say, okay, I need to build something where we can have great teams or great people, but I can lead at a very high level with culture and making sure that my team knows that I'm there to support them, but not having every customer call me. So the learning experience in the construction world was really so much. I mean, there were so many things that I went through that were very, very stressful. And then so many things that, I was making more money than I ever thought I would make, but I also wasn't living life. I was working 16, 17, 18-hour days, 6, 7 days a week, and not doing anything. I would skip people's weddings, people's parties, different holidays with family, because I was so indulged and engulfed in my business. And that really opened my eyes once I sold it. It was one of the reasons I wanted to sell, was to get out of that kind of cycle, and being able to build something now that is more of an investment manager opportunity for our candidates across the country with Hopin is a dream, right? I mean, it's something that I've always loved. How many people can I help along the way? And in my construction industry, I had the ability to do that with so many subcontractors and help them build their companies up. And there's no different now, where I'm being able to help individuals and some team around me, and then also candidates across the country start their first company or open up their first business.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I'm curious, with the construction company, how did you broker the deals, or how did you find the deals that these contractors or subcontractors were unaware of? Were you just
Yeah.
marketing? Were you really good at marketing, or did you have a network of people that you knew were building an apartment building, and you were able to connect somebody? How did that work?
Yeah, it was all new construction. So I was just walking into construction trailers. Once I saw a trailer go up, or I saw a crane go up in the air, I was walking into those and shaking hands and introducing myself. Again, people do business with people they like, and I've just kind of always been able to adapt to different clientele, different people, and just be likable. And a lot of those I walked into, and they said, "Yeah, we actually need help with this," and I'd never done anything of that sort of business ever in my life. And I would say, "Yep, I can make that happen." I'd walk out of the trailer, I'd pick up my phone and try and find a subcontractor that could do it, because I had no idea what it was or how to do it. So a lot of it I was selling early on, and I might not have had the subcontractor to do it. I might not have knew what it was all about, but I knew that there was somebody out there smarter than me that could get the job done. And it just snowballed. And then that industry is very buddy buddy. It's very relationship based. And once, a job is done, usually that contractor or that project manager or superintendent might go to a new job with the same company, or go to a new company and have a new job. So word just got around. If you need something done, call Rich and call One Alliance. And to this day, that company it's grown probably two or threefold. The guy I sold it to has done an amazing job over the last 6 years since I sold it, 6, 7 years since I sold it. And it's obviously a concept that works very well. And he's expanded to different cities in Nashville and Atlanta and a couple other cities across the East Coast. So really, really cool to see that, I grew something that was has continued success, and the ability for us to kind of just sell something that to me was good faith. I really didn't have contracts in place at that point. There was definitely some contracts, but they were smaller contracts and nothing long term, just one time jobs.
Yeah, now that you've explained it, I could see how that could kind of consume your entire life, where you're making all these connections and you're building this network, which is great. But a contractor or a project manager can call you at any hour of the day or night, and then you kind of have to jump on it. So
Yeah, there was never a time where my phone was being rung and somebody was saying, "Hey, Rich, I appreciate all the help you gave us on that job." It was, "Hey, where are your guys at? Here's the next thing. We don't really care what you did for us. We need to continue growing and continue building." So getting into ice cream and the bars was always something that was like, man, this is a breath of fresh air.
but I feel like you've still chosen a very heavy service category, right? Where I don't have experience doing this, but running a restaurant is just, you have to serve hundreds of people a day, right? And so it's very high touch. There's still a lot of service issues and things that can just come up on a day to day basis. But if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you've outsourced that. You mentioned you're a director of operations. I don't know if that's who handles a lot of the franchisees or questions or problems that arise. Is that basically how you've done it? Is you've kind of removed yourself a step or two, so that way you're not dealing with the broken keg or the customer that, unruly customer that needs to be removed from the premises or whatever it is that basically how it's worked?
Yeah, for sure. Hiring the right people, hiring the right managers on site to handle the day to day operations. Now I'm very high level, very uh, indulged in the process of working with my new candidates or the new franchisees and supporting them and going through the process of making sure new candidates are a good fit for us, and then also supporting the existing franchisees early on as we're growing. So yeah, for me, I've removed myself from the day to day operations, other than high level decisions that we meet once every week or once every other week with my executive team to discuss those. And I'm in the process of hiring a president to even remove myself a little bit more to be able to focus on the franchising side and let me focus on the visionary stuff.
And so I'm curious, what do you recommend for somebody that's earlier in their entrepreneurial journey? Do you think that they need to go through what you did with your construction service brokerage services business, where you're in the weeds, you're killing yourself to grow it because it teaches you a lot? Or can you follow a similar path to what you're following now with Hopin, where you can keep yourself pretty removed as you grow it?
Everybody's journey is different. For me, I'd say the one recommendation I have for anybody that's wanting to be an entrepreneur, wanting to start their own business, or wanting to get into it, or is maybe early on into it, is action. Like, action over everything. If you just take the action, you'll learn how to do stuff. Again, it's the fear of failing is going to slow you down, right? You need to look at failure as a success, and that giving you the trampoline to learn and grow. So if you just go take the action and do things, you'll look back a year from now or 2 years from now and be like, shit, that's how you do it. You just go do it. Because your journey will be completely different than mine. I always love to have a mentor, somebody you can just have as support, because entrepreneurship is a very lonely world, especially when you're maybe the only person that owns the company. You got to make all the decisions. And I know that's been tough for me over the last couple of years with the growth of our franchising and really kind of trying to learn franchising in general, because it's a whole new animal. So just being able to take the action and understand that you're going to make mistakes. Mistakes are a good thing. As long as you're finding ways to adapt from those mistakes and either go a different direction or just learn from them and say, all right, this was a great learning experience. This has actually helped me expand twofold since I made that mistake. Outside of that, I think being able just to have a good mentor or mentors to lean on in different situations, because like I said, it is a lonely world, right? You can have your wife or your girlfriend or your parents or brother or sister that is very, very close to you, but no matter how much you speak to them, if they've never done it themselves or never been in a position of owning their own business, they will never truly understand what you're going through. So having a mentor that's really just a cheerleader and can kind of give you some guidance. But again, your journey is going to be completely different than every other entrepreneur's journey was. So do you take the route I did and kind of invest all your time and energy and try and create something that allows you to propel into something bigger and more hands off? Sometimes that's what it takes. And also, do you have a boatload of money that you can hire the right people early on and not have to invest your own time and energy into it? Or do you have to shoestring it like I did at 25, 26 years old and have to be that guy? So it just really depends on, where you come from, what you have available to you at your arm's reach, and financially, if you have the money to have the right people and hire the right people, where you can just be more the visionary and, again, hire people that are smarter than you to do the work.
Yeah, a lot of variables at play. And then maybe can you speak to, I think it's pretty obvious, but I think there may be a small portion of people that say, hey, I want to be in the weeds. I want to be the guy. And so we're there. Maybe you could speak to other factors in your life or just kind of the life you want to live that cause you to make the decision of like, hey, I want to pull back because I want to do X, Y, Z, or I want to spend more time with these people and kind of your thought process with that. Because I think that can be a decision because you talked about, hey, I was making more money than I've ever seen. Some people may say, okay, I'm gonna dig in further that way and try and make even more money. But you kind of pulled back and said, hey, this is enough and this is the route I want to go. And what's the driving force behind that decision?
Yeah, I think for anybody that wants to get into entrepreneurship or be their own boss, is it's the freedom, right? The ability to be able to wake up and do what you want and make the decisions you want day to day without feeling you have to go to a 9 to 5 or go to an office. So the ultimate goal is freedom. Whether if you're making $50,000 a year or making $2 million a year, I can make $2 million a year like I was making and be not free at all, right? And not have the ability to do things because I'm so tied down to my business. Or I can make $50,000 a year and be very free and just live a simple life. And whatever is okay for you is okay for you. Those are the decisions that, like you just mentioned, do I keep diving deeper into this business and spending my time and energy and stressing myself out for a bigger outcome or a bigger sale? That's a decision that each individual has to make and they will have to live with. For me, the stress, the anxiety, the time, the effort, for the money that I was making, as good as it was not worth not having the freedom or to live life the way that I envisioned it. So the goal of selling it was so I can have freedom. But that didn't change my work ethic. My work ethic really didn't change until I met my wife back in 2018, 2017. So that is when, and even then, the first year, I still worked harder than I was working and was waking up at 5 a.m. and was still working till 8, 9 o'clock. And it wasn't until she said, why work this hard if you're not going to enjoy things in life? But at that point, she kind of just reeled me in a little bit, slowed me down, and I needed that. It was something that for me, it was more of just the settling down and finding somebody that just pulled me back a little bit to say, oh, this is great, you're doing amazing things, but you could die tomorrow. What's the point in working so hard and not enjoying it?
Do you think you'll kind of constantly have that pull of like pulling back, but also you mentioned, you want to open 10 new locations for Hopin. I think you mentioned that and maybe we could talk about it briefly, the ice cream shop as well that you're building. So how do you have that balance of or do you ever say, actually, I kind of regret it. I do want to get more involved. And then you need to kind of pull yourself back. Is it a constant battle or are you content with where you are and you see that continuing into the future?
No, it's a battle. I think my future vision has become a little bit more clear now that we're growing Hop and expanding that. Like I have a 5 year goal, 4 to 5 year goal to sell that to a PE firm and have a very, very, very nice exit there. I have an investment with a tech company my buddy is a founder on and CTO on, that over the next 4 to 5 years we'll have a very nice exit as well. The ice cream shops, our goal is to sell those potentially in the next 4 to 5 years as well. So I can see myself in the next 4, 5, 6 years of being more at a high level as like a private equity or VC or some type of more just of an investor and hands off on not growing businesses. But it is tough. It is for me. It's the love of just starting a new business, the vision of growing it, the challenges that go through with every new business that I start. I've acquired businesses. I've acquired a media company over the last 2 years here in Charlotte. Like the challenges and the fun and to be able to put people in positions and provide them an opportunity that they may not have had. And then also developing those people throughout the process and making them better and stronger and more successful themselves. And looking back at that is so rewarding. So there is a constant battle of my passion of wanting to see something, envision it, and create it, and find people, make them better, develop them, be a mentor, and see them flourish. The money is just really kind of a way to keep count. It just kind of happens with doing what I'm doing, but the true goal and the true passion is the two things that I just mentioned.
And so I'm also curious too, because I think, as an entrepreneur, you have a decision to make. Why why do all these things, right? You mentioned investing in a tech company, buying a media company, building an ice cream shop, also trying to expand Hopin. Why not just go all in on Hopin and say, instead of 10 locations, I can actually do 20 over the next year and kind of make that an even bigger outcome as opposed to spreading your attention and your ability to build things more thin. Does that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs or successful people that would say, hey, just focus on one thing. And early on, there's no truer words to be said. If you're just starting your first company, like, do not try and diversify into multiple things. I've been fortunate again to sell my first business, and that's where I put all my time and energy, and that's what allowed me to be successful, allowed me to grow it to the point that I grew it and didn't diversify, didn't look anywhere else. But now I'm in a position where financially I can hire the right people to run these businesses. My ice cream shops, I have two of the best partners that I could ever ask for. So those guys handle everything on that side. For me, it's just more high level, like, hey, Rich, we saw this opportunity, this building. What do you think about it? And I meet with those guys maybe once a month at most, just to, one, because they're two of my best friends, two, just to catch up on business. Media company, I hired an individual that takes care of that. It's very rare that my time and attention is given to that at this point in time. Hopin gets 98% of my time. So technically, my investments are investments, and I've again been fortunate enough to have the money to be able to hire the right people or have partners that run those investments. And then the tech stuff is just diversifying, right? I also diversify in commercial real estate, making sure my money is always making money instead of it sitting in the bank losing money. And then, yeah, Hopin's my baby right now. I got an 8-month-old who is the freshest baby, and then Hopin and the franchise is what is going to get me to a place to kind of invest in the people in the future and invest in ideas I like and help mentor, be on board of directors, or help other brands grow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like, and it comes with time, but like delegation is the skill, right? And then obviously you said you've had the success in the past to fund the hiring. So those are the two keys I'm kind of seeing.
Yeah, delegation is huge, but it's also, delegating and trusting. And I think that's two very key things that business owners need to have, is being able to delegate, being able to know when you need to step out of a position. Like, that is something that I've learned over the years of, okay, like right now, in the process of hiring a president, like, that's a big hire. It's not cheap, but I know that the company Hopin needs it at this point of the stage, and I need it because that president's going to be able to do a lot of things that I'm not built that way, and he's not built the way I am. He's not built to be a visionary and come up with these ideas and see the vision long term, but he is an implementer. He's somebody that's going to hold people accountable and be on top of things day to day. So I think delegating, but also understanding when it is time for you to hand over the keys in a position.
I want to, maybe this could be the last question too, because you mentioned earlier that you're a new father, recently got married. Can you speak to how you're balancing that, right? Because I know a little bit from experience too, being recently married, that a family takes a lot of attention and time and should be a priority as well. So how do you balance that with everything else that you're doing?
Yeah, priority changed, right? August 2nd, 2023, my priority changed. My number one priority became our son. And I think my wife owns two bridal shops, one here and one in Miami. So for us, we're both entrepreneurs. We both have a lot going on. She's fortunate enough to have an amazing team and be able to be a full-time mom and a full-time business owner. So we're very fortunate there. For me, I block off time on my schedule. One, to give her some time for herself and for her work, and then two, for me to spend time with our son during this special time that he'll only be this young one time. So being able to go through that process at a young age, and again, it's the freedom. I go back to, if I was working my construction job, I wouldn't have this time, and I wouldn't have the freedom to say, you know what, I have the team in place to be able to take Tuesday afternoons for 3 hours to spend with my son and let my wife do what she's got to do. So balancing it has, in the beginning, the first 3-4 months was probably the hardest thing that we went through as a couple, and the hardest thing that I went through as an entrepreneur, just because your priority has changed, and the freedom of waking up and just going to do what you want to do or what you have to do is completely different. So really figuring out our new life, our new flow, our new scheduling was tough, just because we're both very productive people and we both have our businesses, our babies, our business babies on our minds as well, and then our new son. So it's the balance early on was tough. We found our groove probably 4, 5, 6 months into it, and we got our scheduling figured out. And I think the biggest thing that helped us was sitting down Sundays and going through a week or 2 weeks in advance and saying, all right, what do you have on your calendar? What do I have on mine? What's important that we have to handle, and then fitting in the date day or date night, and making sure that we're also taking time for each other.
Yeah, I like that planning, and then I think it's communication, right? Which in business and relationships
For
are
sure.
key. Well, hey, Rich, I thank you for taking the time. Like you said, you have a lot going on, so I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. I'll give the floor to you to close out here. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, Hopin, etc.?
Yeah, me personally, LinkedIn, obviously the easiest. Rich Moyer, and you can either search Rich Moyer or Hopin on Google, and I'm sure everything involved with me will pop up. You can DM me on Instagram as well, Rich_Moyer, if you're looking for any type of guidance, mentorship, if you're looking to get into franchising and just want to ask me questions. I'm always open to that, whether if it's with Hopin or other brands or whatever it may be. Again, be helping people. I always say it comes back twofold. So being able to mentor and help people is something I take passion and a lot of pride in. So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you are looking to actually learn more about Hopin, you can go to ownahoppin.com. That's our franchise website. Or if you want to go to our consumer website, there's also a link for our franchise website on it. It's called hoppinbrands.com. And again, happy to speak with anybody and answer any questions that anybody has if you reach out.
Awesome. Thanks again, Rich, and all that'll be linked in the description below. So
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
thank